As a slave, Nat Turner was able to lead a bloody revolt that led to the murders of over 50 white people. He was a strongly religious man who saw visions guiding him to the actions he committed. His actions led to stricter control over slaves, as many owners were weary of their own slaves taking inspiration from Turner and planning a revolt. Although some anti-slavery whites believed Turner's actions were evil, they also still continued to believe the abolishment of slavery. Turner's rebellion was another stepping stone leading up to the conflicts of the Civil War. Nat was born on October 2nd, 1800 on a Virginia plantation. His mother, Nancy Turner, didn't want to have the child, and thus Turner was given to a slave couple, Harriet and Tom. At a young age, his foster mother, Harriet, had deemed Nat to be a religious figure. By the age of 5, Nat was able to read, even though no one had explicitly taught him to. He learned to read on his own with few resources. His mother believed he had special powers, as he described events that happened before his birth. In 1809, ownership of Nat was passed from his owner, Benjamin Turner, to his son, Samuel Turner. After Benjamin Turner's death, Nat was sent to the fields to work. Around this time, his adopted father had run away from slavery. Nat's first revelation came to him when he was 17. He received the message, "Seek ye the kingdom of heaven." The same revelation was repeated to him in 1819. He continued his religious studies but could not find an answer to his visions. In 1821, Nat asked for his owner for freedom, but he was denied and whipped. He then escaped but returned due to religious reasons. The death of Samuel Turner in 1823 led to Nat being sold twice, once in 1825 and 1828. This only strengthened his religious views. On May 12, 1828, Turner had his third vision and stated,
"I heard a loud noise in the heavens, and the Spirit instantly appeared to me, and said the serpent was loosened, and Christ had laid down the yoke he had borne for the sins of men, and that I should take it on and fight against the serpent, for the time was fast approaching, when the first should be the last, and the last should be the first. And by the signs in the heavens that it would make known to me when I should commence the great work, and until the first sign appeared, I should conceal it from the knowledge of men. And on the appearance of the sign, I should arise and prepare myself, and slay my enemies with their own weapons."
Turner had already begun receiving visions from God, telling him to take actions. February 12, 1831, marked the seventh vision of Nat Turner. He saw a holy war where he believed it was a command to pick up his weapons and rebel against his oppressors. Nat and 7 other slaves planned for the uprising to take place on July 4th, but he fell ill, so the uprising delayed till a further date. An eclipse on August 13th was seen as a sign for the holy war to happen. August 21, 1831, marked the beginning of the bloodshed. Turner and 7 other slaves first killed Joseph Travis, his owner at the time, and his family in their sleep. They managed to secure weapons and horses, which they used to carry out over 50 more murders of white people along the Virginia countryside. He enlisted about 75 other slaves to help him with the rebellion. Nat and his men traveled towards Jerusalem, planning to take over the armory in the town. However, they were met by militia forces outside Jerusalem, where many of the rebellion members were captured or killed. Nat escaped and hid from militia for 6 weeks before he was captured on October 30th. He was tried and convicted for his actions. While in jail, he wrote The Confessions of Nat Turner. In his confessions, he summarized his life and the morals he lived by. On November 11th, 1831, Nat Turner was executed at noon. His confessions were published a month later for the public. After the death of Nat Turner, a reign of terror was bestowed on many black slaves in Virginia. Over 200 slaves were beat, tortured, and murdered by state and federal troops, many of whom did not even have connections to the rebellion. Nat Turner's rebellion had incited great fear into the Southern people. As a result, the emancipation movement of the South ended. On the contrary, Nat Turner's rebellion acted as fuel for abolitionists in the North. William Lloyd Garrison, a notable abolitionist, had published an editorial in his newspaper, The Liberator, where he partially supported Turner's actions against slave owners. Turner's rebellions would go on to be cited during the civil rights movement in the 1960s as an instance of African Americans standing up against oppression. He had left a radical legacy that inspired but also troubled many.